Early 2026 does not begin with a major explosion, no declaration of war, no mass mobilization. And that is precisely where the danger lies. The world appears to function normally. Markets move. Diplomacy continues. Leaders deliver familiar speeches. But history rarely changes overnight. It shifts gradually through repeated pressure, through decisions that look technical yet carry strategic weight. Today, the United States and Russia stand once again on a path of confrontation. Not because of a single incident, but because of accumulated tension that has been building for years. What makes this moment different is simple. Russia is no longer reacting. Russia is now setting the tempo. The tanker incident may appear technical. To some media outlets, it is framed as sanctions enforcement. To military analysts, it is a signal of escalation. The United States attempted to seize a Russian oil tanker in international waters, a zone that, by law, belongs to no single state. That is where the red line was crossed. When international law is enforced through warships and coercion, it ceases to be law. It becomes domination. Washington may have viewed this as a minor step. Moscow did not. For Russia, this was a test, and Russia chose not to let it pass unanswered. Russia's response came without emotional rhetoric, no dramatic press conferences, no empty ultimatums. Instead, there was presence. Warships, and most importantly, submarines. Russia understands something its opponents often overlook. At sea, what is unseen is often the most dangerous. By escorting the tanker, Russia delivered multiple messages. First, it rejects the legitimacy of unilateral seizure. Second, it is prepared to defend its interests beyond Ukraine. Third, escalation will not remain confined to a single arena. This was escalation control, not escalation avoidance. On the very same day, Russia spoke again, this time from the skies over Ukraine. The launch of Oreshnik was not a coincidence, it was synchronization. A hypersonic missile, extreme speed, unpredictable trajectory, limited interception capability. But specifications are not the point. Context is, Russia did not launch Oreshnik as a demonstration. It launched it as a reminder. Pressure at sea can be answered in the air, and tomorrow in another domain. In global military circles, hypersonic weapons remain a sensitive topic. They expose an uncomfortable reality. Modern air defense is not fully prepared. Oreshnik reinforced that reality, not through testing, but through operational use. For the United States and NATO, this creates a dilemma. Acknowledging effectiveness means admitting vulnerability. Ignoring it risks miscalculation. Russia understands this dilemma well, and that is precisely where its strategic leverage lies. Technology, when used at the right moment, becomes diplomacy by other means. Viewed separately, the tanker escort and the Oreshnik strike seem unrelated. Viewed together, they form a single strategic sentence. Russia will not operate on one chessboard alone. Russia will not allow its opponents to choose the arena unilaterally. This is modern power language. Measured, controlled, consistent. Russia does not need to declare readiness. It demonstrates capability. And the world takes note. The question then shifts. Why does the United States appear so aggressive now? The answer is not simply a desire for conflict, it is structural pressure. The United States was built as a global hegemon. When a hegemon senses erosion, it tends to move faster, harder, more visibly. Venezuela, the tanker seizure, pressure on Russia, even renewed rhetoric about strategic regions. These are efforts to preserve an image of control. The problem is, the world has changed. For years, Ukraine was the center of global attention. Today, reality is harder to conceal. Russia did not collapse. Its economy adapted. Its industry shifted into sustained wartime mode. Meanwhile, Western states face limits, elections, public fatigue, logistical strain. Ukraine continues to fight. But it no longer delivers decisive leverage against Russia, and this is why Washington looks elsewhere. Not because Ukraine is irrelevant, but because it is no longer decisive. The United States often presents itself as the guardian of the international order. Yet actions and rhetoric do not always align. When sovereignty is violated by others, Washington condemns it. When Washington does the same, it calls it an exception. When international law is useful, it is upheld. When it is inconvenient, it is reinterpreted. The Global South observes this closely. Russia does not need to attack the narrative. It simply allows the contradiction to speak for itself. The deployment of American anti-submarine aircraft signals vigilance. It also signals recognition. Recognition that the undersea domain cannot be fully controlled. And Russia has invested there for decades. Russian submarines are not designed for visibility. They are designed for uncertainty. When an opponent does not know where you are, every decision slows down. Every calculation becomes cautious. In strategy, time is power. No major power openly seeks a large-scale war. History shows that wars rarely begin with explicit intent. They begin with misread signals, with false assumptions, with confidence that the other side will not go further. Russia is attempting to make its signals clear, measured, deliberate, visible. The danger is not intention, the danger is interpretation. What we are witnessing is not a collection of isolated events. It is not daily news noise, and it is not temporary drama. It is a fragment of a broader transformation. The United States remains powerful, but its dominance is no longer uncontested. Russia, in its own way, is demonstrating that it will no longer accept unilateral pressure. Is Russia always right? No. Is the United States always wrong? Also, no. But what deserves collective reflection is this: the world can no longer be understood through black and white narratives. Heroes and villains. Good versus evil. Every state acts in pursuit of its interests. Every power reads the world through its own strategic lens. That is where our role begins, not to hate, not to blindly admire, but to think more deeply, more calmly, more critically. If you find discussions like this valuable, if you want geopolitics without shouting, without cheap propaganda, and without forced emotion, then support this channel by subscribing. by liking this video, and by engaging in respectful discussion in the comments. This channel does not ask you to take sides blindly. It asks you to understand. And one final note, this video presents geopolitical analysis based on open source information, strategic trends, and editorial perspective. It is not a call for hatred, not an endorsement of violence, and not an incitement to conflict. The goal is simple, to help you see the world as it is, not as one side alone wishes to portray it. Because in a multipolar era, those who think clearly are always better prepared than those who only react. Thank you for watching. We will meet again in the next analysis.